In private equity, some claim the IPO market is dead. I'm here with Spencer McLeod, partner at G Squared. Your take, Spencer?
Well, Courtney, it's a pleasure to see you, and thank you to the entire team at Markets Group for having me. The short answer is that the IPO market today remains incredibly challenged, and so many of you at home are probably wondering, where is your money? The reality is that when you look at the IPO data in venture capital year by year, between 2013 and 2020, Courtney, there were about 40 venture-backed IPOs a year. What's stunning is when you go back and look at 22, 23, 24, and year-to-date in 25, you have less than 40 IPOs in that 4-year period put together. And what that means is there is a massive unmet need for liquidity in our ecosystem today. We at G Squared have built our business to be a liquidity provider for the best private companies in the world that we think of as the stars of tomorrow today. And our view is that by working with these companies to provide bespoke liquidity to early shareholders, key employees, so they can be retained at the companies they want to be at, and not just moving to another company to take a higher job, we can be an instrumental partner in helping these businesses execute in the back half of their private company life cycle as liquidity is on the horizon. Today, investment banks like Morgan Stanley suggest there are more than 200 venture-backed companies that would like to go public. But if you think back to that statistic that only 40 can go public in an orderly year, we've got a massive mismatch in duration and liquidity. And we built our firm to really identify and work with the best private companies on solving that paradigm.
And that's what goes back to, I think we talked about last year, you are like the fixer.
That's right. We work with the best private companies in the world as an organization at G Squared to fix unmet liquidity needs. And that can tie into employee tenders. So many great companies out there have made promises, we're going to be public. And you know what? Many of those companies have failed on those promises. So how do you continue to encourage your employees to work hard? How do you show them that when the company wins, they win? The way you do it is by bringing someone like us in to work and help structure a tender. And we're very proud to have done that in businesses like Wiz, which we talked about earlier, was sold to Google for $32 billion in a deal we expect to close in the first quarter of 26. And in many other businesses where they say employees are the lifeblood of what we do. And when our employees work hard, the share price increases. And so we want to do everything we can to show employees that loyalty cuts both ways.
That's fantastic. And speaking of Wiz, you also were invested in Anthropic. Tell me, why cybersecurity and AI right now?
Well, we believe that we are on what may be the greatest stair-step function change in productivity in the workplace since the broad-based adoption of the internet. And what that means is, for those of you that haven't tried ChatGPT and Anthropic, these are fundamental tools that are going to go over the next 5 years from nice to have to need to have. And those companies that embrace them will see outsized gains. And those companies that do not embrace them will certainly be left behind, Courtney, at best. So we have embraced artificial intelligence as a way G Squared is doing business. Why? Because the productivity gains across our organization speak for themselves. And whether you look at an Accenture rolling out Anthropic to many of their employees just earlier this week, here in October of 2025, or you look at the way that Anthropic has announced a coding mechanic in their model that can work for up to 30 hours continuously, what we're seeing is that these artificial intelligence agents can be incredibly valuable and value creating. Now, the interesting thing about them is, unlike a human, which needs 3 meals a day, generally 6 hours of sleep, doesn't want to be overworked and needs weekends and holidays off, agentic agents, these AI agents, work 24/7, 365. And Courtney, they can do what you or I might do in a day in less than a minute. That means we're on the cusp of a fundamental change in society. Coming out of that is the greatest risk profile that exists today, which is cybersecurity. Cyber will become far more important over the next 5 years than it was over the last 5. And when you think about incidents like the Sony hack with the North Koreans on the back of the Dictator movie and others coming out, we all know that cyber is already a central economic theme. We at G Squared believe that these two go hand in hand. As you allocate more capital to investing in artificial intelligence, there needs to be a corresponding investment in cybersecurity. And businesses like Wiz are absolutely at the forefront of that. And on the AI side, a business like Anthropic is truly at the epicenter of the status quo change.
Incredible. And Spencer, clearly you have so much experience in the PE space. For the younger generation out there looking to make a career in the private equity space, what would your advice for them be?
You know, Courtney, when I was coming out of school at UC Berkeley, my parents, I think to this day, are still disappointed that I wasn't a software engineer. But what is changing is that roles like that are going by the wayside or being focused on more monitoring artificial intelligence rather than writing code. Sundar, the CEO of Google, has famously said that 40% of the code at Google today is written by AI. And what does that mean? Great computer engineers are not just writing code, they're more checking code. And I bet if you walk that figure forward over the next 4 years, the number's 70 or 80% of the code at Google is written by AI agents. So what I think is that sales skills, people skills, and an ability to interact with your peers is going to be back and more important than ever. If the fundamental research, if the fundamental heavy lifting about understanding competitive dynamics in a market or which competitor sits where, if that can be done in minutes from a ChatGPT-esque tool, the question is, how is that information used? And that is where I think the people-to-people skills come back, identifying what opportunities may come out of that. And working with your peers in an opposite fashion to what we saw at COVID when everyone was sitting at home and giving each other space. I think human-to-human interaction, Courtney, is going to be back in a way we haven't seen in a very long time.
I think you're right, Spencer. It'll be great to watch.
We're very excited at G Squared, and we think this is a moment where almost no one has enough technology exposure. Fortunes will be made over the coming years, and fortunes will be lost. And we are focused on continuing to ensure that we are in the right position to work with the best private companies on the planet.
Well, you heard it here first. Thanks so much, Spencer, for taking the time.
Thank you, Courtney.
And we're live at Private Equity San Francisco.